Hey, this is Mac from inside the principal's office. I want to invite you to, you know what? It is distracting, discouraging, and frustrating when you are trying to communicate with someone that will not fully engage with you. Yeah, we're going to talk about that this Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on all the SchoolRubric social media sites, platforms. We're going to talk about engaging, challenging parents. When parents and schools work together, we can make amazing things happen for kids. So it is absolutely critical that we engage all of our parents, bring them to the table, and engage in a hearty conversation with them centered around the achievement for all students. Again, join me 9 a.m. Central with my co-host, Charles Williams of CW Consulting, inside the principal's office. Can't wait to see you there.
Hey, it's Charles Williams from inside the principal's office, and I'm down here in Peoria. We just wrapped up the Illinois Principal Association Conference, and we had some amazing sessions. And one of the themes that kept coming up was, well, the idea of relationships, right? We have to build those positive connections and relationships with our staff, our students, and of course, our school community, including our parents. And that's not always as easy as we make it sound. Sometimes we have challenging parents, difficult parents who push back, but here's the reality. They only do that because they want what is best for their child. They want to make sure that we are doing everything that we're supposed to do to make sure that their child is taken care of. So how do we actually engage with them? Well, join me and my co-host, Michael McWilliams, as we chat about some practical advice and strategies that we've implemented with some amazing guests. So join us this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time across all of SchoolRubric's social media. I'll see you soon.
Good morning and welcome to this edition of Inside the Principal's Office. I am Mac. I am one half of an awesome team here at Inside the Principal's Office, a show sponsored by SchoolRubric, and we are so excited that you have joined us today for a very important conversation. And I want to challenge you now. There are tons of people that need to be involved in this conversation today, and I am going to ask you now to share this broadcast, tweet someone, text them, administrator, teacher, LSSP, anybody in a school today that wants to know how to work with parents so that you can make amazing things happen for kids. They need to be a part of this show today. So would you please do that? Hey, there are not just me. I don't know why you can only see me. I thought I had some people. They were here just, oh, there they are. They were hiding. They were a little scared, I think. But hey, they're here now, and we are so excited. There's that guy. Yeah, there's that guy, Charles Williams, all the way from Chicago, Illinois, CW Consulting. How's it going, guy?
Hey, it's good, Mac. It is good. It's Chicago, so I've got my sweater on because it's sweater weather. So I'm going to call these the sweater series, right? So
the sweater series. Well, I'm in Texas, so you heard all that wind in my introduction. It's beginning to get chilly, but I still got short sleeves on. I have a couple more weeks before I get to sweaters.
Oh, man, I wish. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. So excited for you to be here. And before I introduce myself, I just want to echo Mac's sentiment. This show is definitely designed for leaders all over, but it is designed for that. Exactly. It's not principals, it is leaders. So please make sure that you are connecting. We want to make sure that we are bringing everybody in. And so I challenge you, if you haven't done so already, for our upcoming episode, make sure that you bring a friend with you. Principals, if you're out there, identify that teacher leader in your building and say, hey, I've got this show that I want you to come and watch with me. Right? Well, not necessarily with you, but share the link with them so they can watch it as well. And teachers, if you're watching it, and you're saying, hey, my leader needs to hear these things, my principal needs to hear these things, invite your principal. We are a safe space for all leaders. And what we know is that we all lead each other. We all lead students. So therefore, we are all leaders. So I just wanted to echo that, Mac. Thank you so much for bringing that up. My name is Charles Williams. As Mac said, I'm here in Chicago. I'm a K-8 principal. I am the host of the Counter Narrative podcast and the founder of CW Consulting. As long as this road, right? Co-host of Inside the Principal's Office. And we have some amazing people. I see Jeff. So before I introduce our guest, if you're in this space, I know we've already started talking to you. If you're in this space, stop by, say hi. This is not a one-way conversation. We want to engage you. So I saw Jeff and Charlotte. So good morning to you both.
Tag your friends in the comments right now. Tag them.
So we have some amazing guests. We have Sheryl from Chattanooga and we have Zach from Brooklyn. So I'm going to turn it over to them so that they could introduce themselves. So Sheryl, I'm going to come to you first. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and then Zach, as soon as she's done, hop on in.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am excited to be here. As he said, I am Sheryl Randolph. I am an educational consultant. I come to you with 25 years of experience. I have been a teacher and assistant principal and director at the student at the central office. And so education is my passion. I am delighted that I now get the opportunity to travel to school districts and work with principals. My specialty is culture and climate, which I think will be important today in dealing with parents, but just helping our children, our parents, our administrators be successful. So I am delighted to be with this panel on today.
Yeah. And I'm Zach Cohen. I'm here in Louisville, Kentucky right now, though originally from Brooklyn, New York, which is hopefully going to explain the accent. I could kind of piggyback on Sheryl here and share how many years I've been in education. But my dad, who's been in education for 42 years, he always tells me, until you've been in education for 25, nobody cares. So I'm going to hold off on that. Originally from Brooklyn. I've worked in international schools in Morocco, in China, in South Africa. I've worked at independent schools in Boston and Massachusetts, or I should say New Jersey. And now I'm the middle school director here at the St. Francis School in Louisville, Kentucky, a non-denominational, non-sectarian, progressive independent school.
Very nice. I mean, I think I have, 3 years in education total? No, I'm joking.
Well, since everybody's talking about numbers, I didn't really introduce myself. I have been in education. This is my 26th year. I look mighty young, but yeah.
Just crossed the threshold.
I just crossed the threshold where
Yes, we just made it.
people are beginning to care. So 26 years, 20 years as an elementary principal. And our topic today is one that people have grappled with every year. And probably we will as time marches on, but we hope that we put a good dent in finding a resolution today through our conversation. Today, we are talking about homeschool connections and how we can engage parents. And when you look at a subgroup of parents, there are some parents that may be not as engaged as others, and it may be challenging to engage them. In 26 years, I have learned this, that relationships as leaders, and not just principal leaders, but teacher leaders throughout the building, relationships, that's the currency that we use to do the work. Everything that we do is done through people. And it's very important for us to establish and maintain rapport and relationships with the people that we serve.
Yeah. So, and before I elaborate on that, I just saw Donald McCurdy jumping in. So we have 2 birthdays, Mac. I don't know. So one, you don't know, Don's birthday is tomorrow. He's one of my teachers. So happy early birthday, sir.
Can I sing?
But a former, can you sing? Yeah. Because whose birthday is today? Do you remember Dan?
Yeah. Who's
Dan Edwards from London? Today is his birthday. So happy birthday to you, Dan. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Dan. I wish I could sing in my British accent. I'll work on it.
So I'm sorry. I just wanted to jump into that. And I'm sure Wallace is already like, stop, you're derailing too early. You do that at the end of the show. So we're going to pick back up. And Mac, you're absolutely right. We have like those 3 groups, right? We have those individuals who are engaged, who are there maybe a little too often. But the other 2 groups, right, those are those who don't engage at all. And how do we bring you into the fold? And of course, you've got that other group, the ones that come in, but they're angry, they're challenging, they're pushing back. And so how do we engage with all of these? And you're absolutely right. Some of us as leaders, we step up and we try to shield our teachers from some of that brunt force. But in a lot of times, our teachers are dealing with it as well. And so we want to make sure that we're empowering leaders on how they could best serve their teachers and community. And we also want to empower you as teachers. If you're watching, how do you engage these parents? So we are about to jump into question 1 that actually came from last week's episode, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's see, what is question number 1 from Dr. Nelson? We are going to actually ask our guests who are here with us today what questions they would love to hear from our next session. So we're going to turn it over. So we're going to go to Dr. Nelson, and then we're going to go to Dr. Lyon. What is one question that you would love to hear us discuss during our next session?
I think that I would love to hear what are some specific strategies that any principal at any school can use to engage a non-engaged parent.
It's a great question. And so today we're going to be doing the same thing. We want our guests on the show to pay it forward by asking the next group's questions. And so today, Dr. Nelson asked a great question, and it's focusing on those non-engaged parents, the ones who are sitting back, the ones that we don't see very often. How do we bring them in? How do we engage them? So, Sheryl, I'm going to kick it over to you first.
First of all, I love that we're using parent engagement and not parent involvement, because we have to move to engagement. I think oftentimes we hear parents say, you all have already said what you're going to do, and you're just telling me how to help you make it happen, as opposed to having conversations with them. I think the knowledge that we need to carry that's important is that every parent's school experience is very different. So the way we entreat them has to be very different. And being a principal and a director, I would examine, I'd say, why are they so resistant? I'm being as nice as I can. Well, they were pulling from their toolkit of my experience was challenging. It was not the most positive. And so I would have to take time to say, okay, what is it that I need to do in order to let this individual know that this is going to be a positive experience? So our first thing in engagement is making sure that we create a positive, welcoming environment. And that's not just from the principal, just from the teacher. That's everybody. I love Chick-fil-A because they tell you it's my pleasure to serve you and how may I help you. We almost have to take on that attitude when we meet our parents and say, you know what, it is my pleasure to serve you and your family. We're glad that you're here. So that's one of the most positive things I think that we can do as a school. Let's set the environment to be welcoming for our parents, whether they're the grunter ones, and we'll figure that out really quickly, or whether they're the ones that they are too much, which we'll work on that. But we create that environment that's welcoming, that says right off the bat, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
That is powerful. That is powerful. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Sheryl, I think I would just kind of piggyback onto that, right? Like our goal has to be to create these co-equal partnerships with parents, right? If we just look at the research at all, right, it tells us, hold on a second, Wallace, because this is meant to be a little more conversational, more like a coffee house, can we go back to the 4 frames? Yeah, that way we can just shoot the breeze a little bit. Cool. Right? But what we know from the research, right, is that children during their schooling years are only going to spend about 15,000 hours at school. They're going to spend 27,000 hours at home, right? So it's going to be futile if we think that any initiative we do at school, if it's not going to be supported at home, it is not going to land pretty flat, right? We know the importance of the school-home partnership because of John Hattie's research that found that the school-home partnership and the strength of that partnership has a 0.51 effect size, right? And yet, oftentimes, because of just our professional expertise, we find that parents tend to feel less adequate when they come in, right? There's already a power imbalance. So the question becomes, how do we actually seek to reconcile that power imbalance? And Sheryl, just to a point that you made here, right? We want to be welcoming. We want all of that, where we want parents to feel like they are they have an open invitation to come into our office. I would also say that part of my experience over the past, call it year and a half right now, has been that an open door policy and kind of open letters of invitation and sharing with parents my Calendly so they can always book time with me, right? That it's not enough. What I have found is that that is an equity issue in my building, right? I work at an independent school, and I have found that what it does is it places those parents who understand their privilege and understand the levels of, or the levers of power that they can wield. It puts them at a massive advantage. Those are the parents who tend to book most of my time, whereas my parents who are coming from the West End, they're the ones who are not reaching out at all. They're the ones who are still reticent to do so. So it really has to be a very and sort of deeply proactive approach where weekly letters, Calendly, those things are actually kind of insufficient. We have to reach out to begin to identify what is it that they prefer in terms of their interaction. Do they prefer a text, a phone call, right? Email is not oftentimes enough. So I would say I've been recently trying to kind of look through the parent relationship piece through that equity lens of not just, hey, I've done this, but saying, can I do more? Can I be more proactive? And some of that's going to just, kind of stem from my trying to make sure that every parent feels included, that every parent has a kid who feels included, that information is always going home. So just kind of
that is great. And there's such brilliant minds here today. Because I can just piggyback and take the next thread of that, that I believe this. I believe that my job is to ensure that everyone is learning on our campus. And we have to see, PLC, the L stands for learning. Everybody is learning. Kids learn more when teachers learn more, when admin learns more, when parents learn more. So what do you do when you have a kid in your class that is not engaged? What do? You seek out those things that motivate them, and you work with that one-on-one until they are engaged, and you bring them into the learning process. I believe that we must do the same thing with our parents.
Absolutely.
And that is, we want a crowd of parents at our events and a crowd of parents coming in the building for, parent conferences. I think that it is very important for us to realize, how do you get crowds? You get crowds because they come in one by one family at a time. So it becomes our role to, again, be proactive. And those parents that are not engaging, how powerful would it be if instead of you reaching out for me to get on my calendar, if I reach out to you to get on your calendar? Because there's something that we're serving that's going to help you help your kid. You need this. And I care about your kid enough that I will not let them go through the year without having your voice be an active role in their education. So that is and if it's the principal doing it, if it is the teacher, because we want to look through all those lenses, someone needs to be proactive. Someone needs to specifically build a relationship and engage those parents, because we all know who they are. We all know who they are. So we have to one by one build our team one by one.
And I think they need to know that they bring value to the table. Sometimes, as I said earlier, we'll have it already prescribed for them. This is what we're doing. But I always tell parents, and let me in on the secrets. What are those little nuggets that I need to, make sure your child is successful, or that we can do together? So when they feel that what they bring, whether it is large or small, or whether it's intellect or experience, that what you bring to the table is valuable, and that makes our experience that much more rich. I think we have to be intentional about making sure they understand that. And that will help relieve some of that intimidation factor. That will relieve, I can't offer what they offer. I don't need you to offer what they offer. That's already here. I need you to bring what you bring to the table. And then that makes us complete. So I think just being intentional.
I think that's, go ahead,
Jack.
I was just gonna say, Sheryl, I think that's spot on, right? It's that idea of there's so much expertise that a parent is going to hold, and we want that expertise to actually brought into the fold of the work that we're doing within our school community. I think as well, when I hire a new teacher, I'm not bringing in that teacher just for their expertise in math. I'm bringing that teacher in so that they can also contribute to the community at large, so that they can check my blind spots, right? So that they can help out, so that they can coach, so that they can mentor, so that they can be involved in so many other facets of the community. Parents are the exact same. So something that we've been kind of striving to do recently is not just bring parents in so that we can have a conversation about their kid, but actually bringing parents in and doing instructional rounds with parents. So going with parents around, because right, so often we talk about disengaged, right, parents or parents who maybe can be a little bit more challenging. A lot of times it just stems from a lack of information, right? They have way too many emails in their inbox, so they never got around to checking what St. Francis sent out. And now they have questions about that. Now they have worries about that. They have concerns about that. So rather than trying to address those in the moment, right, actually constructing instructional rounds that are tailored to parents. So like last Monday, I brought for about 2 hours a handful of parents just around classrooms, kind of quietly observed. We developed an essential question rooted in our cultural documents beforehand. And then at the end, we went back to my office and we just debriefed and we chatted. And obviously those questions evolved over time, but I found that to be a really sort of powerful leverage point just because it gives them information. And also it invites them into the fold that we really do want to actually hear their voice.
Oh, that's good.
There have been some amazing nuggets this morning already, and I'm sure Mac's Black Book is getting filled up. And so, one of the things what I'm trying to do, and I've seen this with our parents, you're right, we have to consider, and my good friend Tara has said this, we have to meet them where they're at, right? And so we have to understand, at least I know in my space, that a lot of our parents, they didn't have good experiences in schools when they were students. And so they're bringing that with them now. So they're coming into these spaces, they're still hesitant. They know that they have to send their child to school. And so one of the things I've really tried to do is create very informal spaces in order to get this information. Like, sure, I loved what you said, is not involvement. This is what we're going to do. This is how I need you to help us get there. But where do you think we should go and how can you help us get there? And so instead of, for example, my Title I meetings, right? Because when you say Title I meeting, it's like, ooh, right? That carries something. Yeah. But I'm stealing something from Mac, Mugs with Mac. So I'm doing these coffee chats with Charles.
Come on, coffee chat.
So it's like, just come in and just chat with me. Let's just have a conversation, right? It worked very well during the pandemic. We would just hop online and we would just connect. And again, I think those parents who are hesitant, because you're right, I don't know if I'm bringing something valuable. I don't know what you're expecting. I don't want to get caught in something. So just come in and have a conversation with me, right? And then we can steer that conversation to where we need it to go. We can give them the skills and the power to say, hey, this is what all I need from you, right? This is what being engaged is all about. And so some amazing nuggets this morning. I want to say thank all of you, but I know that time is moving, so we're going to get ready for question 2. And again, just thank you to everybody popping in. I saw Carlos. He was a question from last time. So good morning, Carlos, Debbie, Brad, John, all of you. Thank you for joining. And continue sharing your thoughts and responses to these questions as well, because even though there's some amazing nuggets coming out of these conversations, we want you to jump in and share your own. So I know we're going to get ready for question number 2, so I'm going to pass it over to Mac.
Excellent. Let's get to question 2. And we have this excellent resource. Oh, look at Dr. Sheryl has hers. Come on. Called Inside the Principal's Office, a leadership guide to inspire reflection and growth. And this is an amazing resource for principals, for aspiring administrators. Excellent resource. You see on your screen all of the areas that this book addresses, instructional leadership, servant leadership, your own learning, because you have to continue learning. Ideas on how to tell your story, and of course, celebrations. I don't know if we always do the best job at celebrating. Just sometimes the mentality of educators is, wow, we check that off the list. What is our next thing that we're going to do? We want to keep getting those wins for kids. But just to kind of link this resource to our conversation today, chapter 6 or week 6 is entitled "Don't Be a Crab." Don't be a crab. Sometimes in our schools, we kind of have a crab mentality, and people that kind of excel in areas in our building, sometimes if the culture is not cultivated correctly, sometimes they become a target. So, and people, when they see that they're being celebrated, they kind of want to be a crab and pull them down. One of the things as we move into question 2 that I want to challenge everyone that is watching to do is there's probably somebody in your building somebody in your school district that's doing an excellent job with the topic that we have. And I want to challenge you to enter your building, enter your zone, whatever your feeder pattern is. I want you to begin to look with a different lens. And it's great to get these questions answered here, but I want you to look at a lens of who's engaging. Okay, if you're a fourth grade teacher and you have a parent that's not engaged, but third grade, in third grade, they were really engaged. Let's look through the lens of who is doing this well around us. And let's celebrate their skills by emulating what they've done. Let's not just say, oh, goody two shoes, oh, principal's pet. I know that people have heard that before, but let's look for people and let's look for schools even that's doing a great job with engaging parents. And let's enter into dialogues like we're having today. How is that done? What are the best strategies? How can I implement that in my classroom, in my school? So that, again, we get wins, because all the wins that we get, we're getting those wins for kids. So if you've not gotten this book, it is on Amazon. And when you watch, we're always going to try to tie the work that we do here to this written work. Go to Amazon and get that. It'll be the best $19.99 that you've ever used to invest in yourself. So we're going to move on.
Hey, Mac.
Yes, Charles.
But what if they say, I really want the book and I want to give it to somebody? I think we have something happening right now, don't we?
We do have something happening right now, Charles. Why don't you tell us about it?
Absolutely. We got our book giveaway. And so we're in our final days to celebrate Principal Appreciation Month. We appreciate everything that you guys are doing. So we're in our final days. It's not too late yet. It's a very simple 3-step process. First of all, make sure that you follow us on Twitter at Inside Principal. Once you follow us, find the tweet and then make sure that you like it and retweet this post that has this little picture here. But when you retweet it, make sure that you tag a principal or a few that you feel deserve a copy of our book. And what we're going to do after the month of October is over, we're going to send 5 copies out to 5 amazing principals all over the country, because we want to make sure that we are investing in them just as much as you should invest in yourself when you pick up a copy of your own. So make sure that you do those 3 simple things: follow us, retweet, and tag somebody that deserves a book.
Good deal. Let's move on to question number 2. Dr. Heather Lyon's letter. She was on our last show and she left an excellent question for us to consider today.
All right, Dr. Lyon, we are going to come over to you. What is a question that you would love to hear us discuss on our next session?
I should have thought of a backup because my question's so similar, because I think this is so universal. I was wondering, how do you help challenging parents become partnership parents?
That is a good one, and I have some thoughts. Zach, let's talk to you first this morning.
Yeah, I think the first thing to figure out is when we consider what a challenging parent actually is, we really kind of need to initially seek to drill down to actually understand kind of the root, right? That core of where that challenge might be coming from in the first place. I think so often, right, that challenge, or what I would say presents itself as a challenge, because what we tend to, in our respective offices, consider a challenge is that parent who bombards us with emails, who forgets that salutation or forgets to turn that caps lock button off, perhaps, right? Every now and again, sometimes that language gets a little salty, right? Right. And when we get those emails or we get those calls, right, naturally we become a little bit defensive, right? And that's obviously, I think, a perfectly human reaction. But I think rather than for us to get certain, I think the best thing for us to do in the face of a challenging parent is get curious, is to really begin to just ask questions. My experience tells me that questions tend to diffuse that challenge, because what it does is it forces people to become more vulnerable and more open, and it really begins to invite them in. Oftentimes what I'll do is, if I have a parent who reaches out maybe about something that's transpired over the last 24 hours, is I'll ask them to go back 24 hours. I ask them to think about who I am and think about my office, and tell me what they would have done in those 24 hours, to actually bring them in and to kind of create like a compare and contrast. So this is what you would have done. This is what I did. Let's talk through that. What I often find with parents, I think, Charles, you said at the start, right, is parents really do have their kids' best intentions at heart. And so what we want to do is always center the child in those conversations and get back on that same page, because oftentimes there's way more similarity than there is difference in the way that we want the outcome to be.
Oh, I love that, Zach. Yes, over here. No, wrong way. There we go. Yes.
Wrong way.
That was awesome. I love the phrase where you said, let's become curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always a root. There's a root cause. And so quick story, when I was principal and I would have this parent that would come in and she just didn't like me. And I'm like, who doesn't like me? I'm bubbly, I smile. Why do you not like me? And she just made it her mission. I saw your eyes, Mike. She made it her mission to just upset our day. And I would notice that the 2 times she came in, she'd have these bracelets on her arm and I could see them clearly because she always had her hand in my face like this. And so I was in the store one day and I saw these little bracelets and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to buy one, the same color of our school. So I put it in a box. I invited her to the school where she came with her attitude that she normally packs every time. And she said, what? And I said, I just want to give you this box and I want to invite you to be part of our team. Cool. And she was like, skeptical, open it. And it was our school colors. I said, I noticed that you have bracelets that you wear all the time. And so I wanted to give you one that represents the school for the new team that you're a part of. And she was just kind of like, what? You want me? I said, I do. I said, because we're going to do this together. I said, so are you willing to join the team? And she was like, well, I guess. I said, but here's your assignment. Here are 10 other bracelets. I want you to go get 10 other parents. Wow. And when you convince them to be part of the team, slip that bracelet on. And when you all come to the meeting, I want you to just be dangling when you come in. And I'm telling you, my teachers are like, that is so corny, Miss Randolph. I said, well, let's just see if it worked. They showed up, bracelets on, and with suggestions and, just information. And I found out, that their experience wasn't positive and they were somewhat skeptical. But when we said, we're doing this together, so we ended up buying the whole staff and everybody be like, bracelets up, we do that and the parents could do. And she became the spokesperson for our parent involvement. I'm telling you, it shot up 20% just that 1 year with that one $2.99 bracelet. Worthy investment, but they now fell apart. We found that commonality. So being curious is the key.
The word that you used is investment. Mm-hmm. We have to make and be willing to make an investment. $2.99 times 10, $29 on a
20% increase in parental engagement.
You have to invest, and when people know that I'm willing to invest in you, large or small, that does make a difference. Charles, hop in here before I don't want to talk. It's your turn.
No, you guys are doing an amazing job, and I love this Zach. Something you said earlier, something I say all the time, right? We get curious, not furious, right? It's just a root of what we do. And so a lot of times, right, I have parents who have come into my office, they're storming around, and I'll be honest, as a principal, and I'm going to encourage you as leaders, when that parent comes in angry, I need to speak to the teacher. Come sit in my office. What's going on? Right. And so, first of all, I need to shield, right? Most of the time it's during instructional time. So I got to protect instructional time. But I want to figure out what's going on and see if I could diffuse the situation first before they go and talk to that teacher. So now, right, the anger or whatever, I've just taken it on. But the one question that I often ask them is, well, what can we do for you? How can I make this better for you? Right. And you mentioned this earlier, when you force somebody to come in and reflect, right? Because they're ready to attack, but it's like, oh, wait a second. What do I need? Right. But here's the key. If you as a leader, if you're going to ask that question, you have to be ready to either respond or act on whatever it is that they say. Because if they say, well, I just need you to, I don't know, right? You always send things out in email. I have an email, right? Can you send home a letter? Well, then, yeah, right. But I have to do that. So make sure that you diffuse that situation, bring them into a space, whether it's your office or another space in the building. I don't like to do it in my office because that's a power thing, right? But ask a question and say, how can I help you? What can I do to help you? And then how can we do this thing together? We had some very challenging students and their parents join us this year because they were leaving schools from the pandemic and they joined us. And so I made that very clear. I want your child to be successful. How can we work together to make your child successful? Right? How can you help me? What can I do for you? How can we do this thing together? And I think a lot of times, as I said earlier, parents just want what's best. And so if they know that they're coming in a partnership, right? I think oftentimes our challenging parents and disengaged parents are often in the same vein. They're just presenting it in two different ways, that they don't think that their child is getting what they want, or they don't know how to interact with the school. And so they're just either, I'm going to separate or I'm going to challenge.
Right.
But either way, it's how do we make sure that we're here for your child, and how can we do this thing together? Two very different presentations, but it's the same purpose. So, Mac, I'll let you close this one out.
Oh,
Go ahead,
Zach, go ahead.
Do you mind if I just piggyback quickly? Because I do think, and same sort of thing, like, we're working with middle schoolers, and with middle schoolers especially, right? Parents have grown accustomed to their kids coming home, hopping in the car, carpool, or getting off the bus or whatever it might be. And they're accustomed to that kid coming in and going, this is what I learned today in language arts. This is what I learned in social studies. This is what we did in science, right? I had so much fun. Let me tell you about my friendships. Then all of a sudden, overnight, right? Oftentimes, like 6th grade, spring break, it just stops, right? Like that flow of information, right? That faucet, that tap just begins to turn off. And all of a sudden, parents get that response of like grunts, right? All of a sudden, they lose a lot of that insider information that they had once had. So a lot of times with parents, Charles, to your point, I think it's a matter of trust. As kids begin to pull away, right? As kids begin to kind of find and seek and crave their own identity and independence, a lot of times parents just want to know that they can trust the adults who see them most often and who hear them most often, who have relationships with them, who maybe at certain points are even closer than they are with their parents.
Right.
And they just want to know that their kid is going to be supported during that very kind of scary time where kids begin to take on a little bit more autonomy.
Right. And I think when we talk about this question deals with transformation, how do we change parents from challenging to partnership? And I think that when you think about challenging relationships, partnerships, there's something that's common, and that is communication, because you're definitely having conversation with those challenging parents, and you're having conversations with those parents that you're partnering with. So we have to control the narrative and the conversation. We control the topics that we're talking about. So again, it's just that basic being proactive and controlling the conversation. Don't wait for a parent to bring an issue that they have, but let's be proactive and let's talk to parents. One of the things that we do on our campus is I do a beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, survey. Let me ask you questions. And it probes several areas of our learning community. And those parents that would present themselves as challenging, those are always the ones that are going to want to give their opinion. And there's several things that we have data from, and there's some open-ended questions. And so with that information, we can now be proactive and address those concerns, address those trends and data before we get to those areas where it is challenging, because they feel that, I am a partner and my voice does matter. This Tuesday, I'm creating a parent advisory coalition. I have a group of teachers that's the guiding coalition. Why not do the same thing with parents? Parent advisory coalition. And we're looking at our beginning of the year data, and my 37 parents have agreed to be a part of this coalition, and we're going to create a SMART goal for the year. And our parents are going to be in charge of creating all of the activities, monitoring the plan to ensure that not only are our kids getting a world-class education, but our parents are having a world-class experience while they do that. I think we have a comment, Charles.
And I think this is great, because I know we talked about this at the very beginning of the episode about how we want to make sure how we're presenting this information today. And a good friend of mine, Debbie, and this is a great point, that when we're dealing with these situations, to make sure that all parties are involved. I know in my case, oftentimes I had that parent sitting in my office. They're angry, they're frustrating, they're fuming, right? And I tell them, and usually what I say is, I'm going to look into this, but how can I help you? Right? I'm going to look into this for you, and I will get back to you. And my very next stop is that teacher's classroom, right? If the parent's upset with something I did, or as a school, right? That's on me. But if a parent comes in and they're mad at a teacher for something that happened, 9 times out of 10, I have no idea what took place. But I can't just take that parent's word. I just can't take that student's word. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop into that teacher's classroom and say, hey, this was just brought to my attention. Can you share about this? What can we do? Right? I love sitting everybody down at the table and hashing those things out. But Debbie, you are absolutely right that as school leaders, I shouldn't, not that I can't, but I shouldn't make a decision on your behalf without knowing that full story. So leaders, absolutely, please make sure that as we're talking about, as we're talking to these parents and trying to resolve situations, that all parties are involved. While we speak to our students to hear their side, as we're listening to our parents to hear their side, let's make sure that we're listening to our staff members and getting input from them as well, because it's easy for us to say, yeah, sure, they could email you every week giving you updates about their child's progress. And the teacher's like, wait, what? But maybe that teacher says, hey, I can do this. Does that work? Right? So now it's just not a one-way directive saying this is what my teacher is going to do and putting that on them. So Debbie, thank you for always making us reflect, even in the moment. I appreciate that.
Can I speak to that real quick?
Absolutely, Matt.
One of the things that I have established at our school is I will not visit with a parent unless they have first talked to the teacher. And that is one of my first questions. I'll talk through and I'll hear your side and I understand. And, with a positive presumption, it is, what did the teacher say when you visited with her about it? Because that's my role. I am going to resolve conflict that you've not had, because y'all are the major partnership. So it's that positive. I know you talked, because if it's this serious, I know you had a conversation with Mrs. Riley. What did Mrs. Riley say when you spoke to her about it? Oh, well, step one, talk to the teacher. And then I send them back, and then I am not even doing that negotiation, but it is Miss Riley, Miss Sanchez is going to come and she's going to visit with you because she is hot as a firecracker because of blah, 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 blah. That's what she's upset about. These are the points that she's going to bring to you so you can be prepared. And I always send the parent back, because as a principal, if someone goes to my area superintendent, I don't want you problem solving my problem. Send them back to school, and I'm capable to have that conversation. So we have to give teachers that same space to be the first person to try to seek resolution.
One, Mac, I would just piggyback Arndt. Maybe my favorite quote I share with kids all the time, faculty all the time, Maya Angelou, right? People will treat you the way you train them to treat you, right? So if you go ahead and you resolve that problem once, well, guess what, man? You've just given that moose a muffin. They're going to be coming to your office every single day from now on, and we have now fully stripped and undermined that teacher's power. So I think that's exactly right.
And the goal is to equip everybody, empower everybody, so that follow through and their follow up, all of that's important. So it's like this circle. We're all working together. That's another point of, I'm with you, you're with me. We're all talking together. Because again, to Mike's point, I don't like you having a conversation or we're having a conversation that the other party involved has not been privy to. So it's a modeling as well. Here is what we expect when conflict arises or when a challenge arises, or here is what we expect when something is done well. So modeling is so important. And again, to that point of building trust with our parents, if we do all of this work inside and we don't ever get back to the parent, we have just made all of our work invaluable. So that making sure that we get back, first of all, thank you for coming to us with this. I always make sure we speak in those plurals, we. I just tell my teachers, do not be allergic to the we win because you're so stuck with the I win. It's we win. That's the culture. It's always we win. We're addressing, we're doing. So keeping that language embedded, but saying thank you for bringing this to us and allowing us to address this together. So that language is important in their follow-up.
So Debbie, I want to say thank you for bringing that to us. I appreciate that. So let's hop in. And I know that we have ideas that stick, but I think that we as leaders also have to understand that while we're doing this work, while we're shielding and diffusing situations, that we are taking a lot on. So there's a great question from Brad who asked us, and we just a very quick, swing around the table here just to make sure that we're on time, of how can we protect our own energy? right? Because yes, we want to protect our teachers. We want to protect that instructional time. We want to diffuse situations, but we're also human, as Zach pointed out. And so we can only take so much. We can only do so much. So how do we protect our own selves during this process? So Matt, can I throw it over to you first?
Oh, you didn't give me any think time, but yeah, sure you can. One of the things that I'm thinking about is this. We have to understand this. I think our energy is zapped when we personalize things, when we make it about ourselves. And one of the activities that I would do with teachers every year is I have them get a sheet of paper and I tell them, you can fold it, I'm elementary, hot dog or hamburger, whichever way you want. And I have them put who I am, what I do, who I am, and list attributes about yourself, what I do, all of the things that you do. And I let them know that when we are in the work, when we are giving feedback about the work, when I'm asking you to reflect, it's all about what you do. It has nothing to do about who you are. Because when you start associating and aligning what you do and allowing what you do to give value to who you are, girl, you forgot to send an email. You still got a good sense of humor.
Absolutely.
You did not send the assessment binder home when you said you were going to send it, but you still have cute freckles and dimples. Our energy is usually zapped when we listen to all this feedback and we assign value to who we are based on what we did. Nobody bats 100 every day. It's a learning community, and we all need what? Reflective feedback. We all need next step feedbacks so we can improve. So I find that my energy is zapped because I have been guilty in the last 20 years of taking things very personally, and now I'm just you know, I'm in a funk because, but in all reality, you know, maybe I did drop the ball. Maybe I didn't do something, but that has nothing to do with who I am. It's just a part of what I do. And we're in this loop of improving ourselves.
Absolutely. So I'm just bringing it around. Zach, you're up next.
Sure. You know, I think that's right. All of that I think is right. And I love that exercise as well. I also think that there is no job that is more personal than teaching. There is no job that is more personal than working in education, right? Everything that we put out, we feel is a reflection of ourselves. And so it can be very difficult, right, to kind of distinguish and delineate between the two. Michael Thompson, right, Dr. Thompson has this, you know, he talks about administrators and he talks about this idea that, you know, every administrator goes to bed at night thinking about the well-being of their kids and their teachers and their parents. And that no student, no parent, and no teacher goes to bed thinking about the well-being of their principal. And I think that that's something for us to keep in mind, right? Is that ultimately it is our responsibility. Like no teacher is going to come up to us and go, "Hey, Mr. Cohen, we set up a wellness day for you." Like it's not going to happen, right? And so it's important for us to be able to own that in ourselves, to be able to examine and evaluate and make sure that we are doing okay. And that's going to look different for every person. For some of us, that's going to manifest in walks, right? Maybe you're walking the dog, right? You're walking with your significant other, whoever that might be. Maybe it's, you know, engaging in daily meditation practices. Maybe it's a little bit of exercise. Maybe it's just reading a little bit of a book. But I think we all have to kind of find our own individual ways in order to make sure that, right, to that point, that we are not personalizing and internalizing all of the stress and all of sort of the exhaustion that comes with the job.
I love this conversation, and I just want to dip back in real quick. I think, and this is a shameless plug for this show, but I think that we spend a lot of time taking care of others, and we engineer these collaborative environments where teachers, you know, they're sharing, we're making sure that they're vulnerable and all of those things. But who creates these spaces for us? And I think that's why what we're attempting to do here is so important, because administrators and leaders in our building, we don't have those collaborative teams. You may have a principal, assistant principal, but we don't have those large teams that are so very aware of our struggles and our challenges. So I also say that we need to make sure that we are partnering with people outside of our building, that we're taking advantage of spaces like this and professional organizations so that we can share and vent and get ideas and strategies that can help us do this work.
And that was going to be my comment. One of the greatest powers that I don't think we utilize well is people power.
Right.
Who are you connected to? Who can you talk to or gather with so that you can be replenished? Because this job is hard and we give
Yes.
out a lot, but we need to have times of being replenished. So yes to self-care. I'm going to date myself, but even the Lone Ranger had Tonto. So
The
everybody
Lone Ranger, who's that?
needs, I know, right? That's those of us that have been in education 25 years and above. And so we don't have to do this work by ourselves. And I want to say this, we have to make sure that we create an environment where people feel comfortable to share their areas that need to be improved. Because if we as administrators feel like we'll be judged for that as well, we won't share either. But since we're modeling, we say, you know what, I need to have a safe place to put what I'm dealing with and get some help. I want to encourage others to have a safe place. So let's use the people power in our partnering.
So great. So thank you for that. And thank you for a great question, Brad. You just took a little bit more out of us, and we appreciate that. Always able to have these conversations. But it is time to move on to one of my favorite parts, which is ideas that stick. And so we've talked a lot today. We talked a lot about the things that we do that we can engage two different sets of parents to say, how can we bring you into the fold? And so this is our question today, is what are we going to do to amplify today's discussion and the strategies presented so that way we could help not just ourselves, but our staff as well work with challenging parents. And so we're going to move over. I have my first one. It's an acronym, and it's just about leading from the heart, right? And so if you look at this, it's simple. We have to be able to hear what they're saying, empathize with the things that they're saying, apologize. And this is huge. I tell people all the time, there is huge power in saying, hey, I'm sorry that you feel this way. I'm sorry that we've made you feel this way. Regardless if you agree with it or not, I'm sorry, because their emotions are true. So make sure that you apologize for the way they're feeling. Make sure that we are responding to their concerns and then thanking them. Just like we said earlier, thank you for bringing this to our attention. So make sure that we always lead, right? And this is not just administrators, but teachers, as we lead from the heart. So Sheryl, I'm going to pass it over to you.
You know what? My takeaway for today is to make sure that we find things in common with our parents, because we say it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Well, we need to know what our team members or we need to know them. So just finding those things that we have in common, those interests. And so that encourages our parents to say, you know what, they are listening. I really do matter. And then they are encouraged to be involved.
Wonderful, wonderful. Zach, you're up next.
Sure. I think after, a year plus, right, of teaching remotely, right, teachers kind of had that fear, right, that worry that there was that parent who was lurking, right, like just off screen, right, watching everything, listening to everything, evaluating, judging everything. And I think that can really wear people down. But I think it really, and especially, will wear people down when they feel as though they're not going to be supported by their administrators. So I think first and foremost, when it comes to parent interaction with teachers and teachers responding to parents and kind of assuming that positive intent, right, that Mac alluded to earlier, right, that's going to come from knowing that they're going to be supported by their administrators, and that if there is an issue, that's not going to be fleshed out in front of the parents. It will be addressed behind closed doors in a one-on-one setting.
Close us out, Mac.
Okay. We're not going to be crabs. We're going to find those people that are doing great things. And as a community, let's co-create criteria for communication. This helps with consistency across every grade level in every classroom. And let's co-create criteria. What are our best practices? What are we all going to commit to do to address our engagement goals on our campus? So co-create, so we begin to multiply those pockets of excellence that are already in our buildings. And I want to stress that there are things that'll work school-wide that's already happening in our building. We just need to have conversations about it and share.
This has been an amazing conversation.
Yes.
And I know that we are at the end. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for an amazing conversation. Tons of information came out. I know personally I'm going to go back and watch this one. Yes. I don't take my notes as we're doing this, but I'm definitely going back and jotting down, because you guys had an amazing ideas. So I want to say thank you. And as we get ready to close out, I want to remind everybody that our next show, we're going to do things a little differently over the next 2 months. Instead of our first and third Saturday, we are going to have one show in November, one show in December because of the holidays. So our next show is on November 13th, and we're going to talk about telling our school stories. So that's important. We have amazing things that are happening. Just like we talked about here, there's amazing things happening in our building, but we don't always do a great job of making sure that the community, the areas around us know what is happening. So that is what we're going to be talking about next week. And so as we get ready for that, I want to ask, just as we did for last week, for our questions as we continue to pay it forward, Sheryl and Zach, I'm going to ask that you share a quick question for our guests next week on how can they better tell their stories, or questions that you have about telling their stories. So Sheryl, I'm going to come to you first.
Well, I think in this tech age, the question probably is, what are the best ways or the best platforms do I utilize in order to tell my story, and that to ensure that it reaches everybody, all of my clients, all of my partners? So what's the best tool or the best platforms to utilize to tell my wonderful story? Because we all have wonderful stories. So how to tell that wonderful story.
No sad story.
No
But a
sad
good story.
No, absolutely. And so, it's like, if you're not comfortable with MySpace, you could use the Twitter. I'm sorry, that was an inside joke from
Did
the
you say
ICA.
MySpace?
Yes.
That's along with the Lone Ranger and Tonto.
You still have your MySpace page, Charles?
Yeah, and you're in my top 10, sir. All right, Zach, it's up to you.
Facts, figures, enrollment data, extracurriculars, so many school stories are the same these days. And I'd love to know how we can drill down to communicate to other people what makes our schools unique.
What makes us us?
I love this group because y'all are thought partners and deep thinkers. Those are excellent questions. And I'm already thinking of how I can share and bring value to this community. That's awesome. We want to grow this community. We are trying to provide that same space for collaboration and vulnerability that you as leaders and teachers do on your campus. If you've not shared this broadcast, share it. People can watch it later. People power. Let's make sure that we use all the people in our circle. Let's use everyone. This has been amazing.
It has been. So I know we are over time, so we are going to begin closing out here. And so Sheryl, Zach, I just want to say thank you for being in this space. Thank you for being amazing. Oh, he did. See, I was going to try to skip over this.
Wow. What is this? What is this?
Okay, well, see, so now it's
Utilizing
his
our platforms to tell our stories.
This is true.
You got a story to tell.
This is now Wallace messing with us from the backstage. So yeah, so Halloween. So at the end of every month, or at the end of October, right around Halloween, we have what we call Character Day. And so I believe this is just something I believe in. It's you don't just talk about building school culture. You have to walk your talk. You have to live your school culture. And so when I say, hey, let's dress up as characters, I join right in with my students. And so here's a picture of me dressed up as, the abominable snowman. And I was so impressed. Another little girl walked in and I was like, "You're Bumble?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Do you know who that is?" Because I'm like, nobody knew, right? I was like, "This is 1964 Rudolph." And she's like, "No, my mom." I was like, okay, makes sense. But you should have seen some of the amazing costumes we had, pirates and Harry Potters. We had a group of Teen Titans. It was amazing. And it's just, again, to let people, you learn so much more. And that is what I take out of this. When that group of students came in as Teen Titans, right, we had a conversation around that. When the kids came in as Harry Potter, I was like, oh, is this still? And you learn so much more about their passions, their interests. And I walked away with a pocket full of information and knowledge about my students. And so thank you, Wallace. Thank you for sharing that picture.
I love it. Well, again, inside the principal's office, thank you for being here. If you've not done so, go to Amazon. I have a high school that's purchased this book. Entire leadership team going through it. The assistant superintendent for human resources purchased this book. I signed it for him this week. He said he was buying one for every member of his leadership team. This is an excellent resource, and it's going to bless you. It's going to help you.
Absolutely. So again, thank you. We are a little over an hour, but it has been well worth the time. I hope that those of you watching were like, it was valuable, even though we've gone over. It's like those shows you go to see live, right? And the person's like, whatever. Yeah, I'm over, but I'm still going to just continue feeding into you. So I hope you felt that way. And
Overtime.
So thank you again, Sheryl. Thank you again, Zach. And thank you to all of you out there who are watching this either live or the recording. We appreciate you, and we hope to see you again on November 13th for another amazing connection. And remember what we talked about. Don't just you show up. Make sure you bring a friend or two or three.
Or seven.
Or seven. So
Because
we
we're
will
better
see
together.
Come
better
on.
together.
Hashtag people power.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you again on the 13th.
Thank you for watching School Rubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at SchoolRubric.com for even more great content such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.